And that problem is Caitlin Clark not playing in WNBA games. Now, what all does this affect? The ratings are plummeting. Guys, there's ratings for a couple of these games that are eye-poppingly bad. We're talking about down in unrivaled territory.
So let me ask you something right out of the gate. What happens to a league that builds its entire historic growth narrative around a single player, only to watch that player limp off the floor with a groin injury and vanish for over a month? Does the machine keep running smoothly, or does it sputter, stall, and start coughing smoke like a car with no oil? Because that is exactly the situation the WNBA finds itself in right now. Everyone thought this was the year Caitlin Clark's arrival was supposed to be the tipping point, the breakthrough, the unstoppable momentum that finally made women's basketball must-see television. The expectation was that Clark's energy would lift the whole league. The reality? Without her, ratings are free-falling.
Shocker! Imagine my surprise. Just imagine my surprise when Uncle Casey found out that the WNBA is struggling to maintain their ratings without Caitlin Clark. To make matters worse, and this is something I have definitely noticed in the last 3 or 4 weeks, especially since the All-Star,
faster than a parachute that didn't open. And the scariest part for the league is this: if one player's absence is enough to crack the foundation, what does that say about the actual strength of that foundation in the first place? Think about the common belief that's been pushed all season long, that the WNBA is finally here, that it's bigger than ever, that the growth is league-wide and sustainable. The story has been painted like a renaissance. But here's the contrarian take. Strip Caitlin Clark from the schedule, even for a few weeks, and that growth evaporates into thin air. And don't take my word for it. The numbers themselves are screaming the truth louder than any pundit could. We're going to walk through them, piece by piece, because they don't just tell a story of declining ratings. They reveal the uncomfortable reality that what's been marketed as a movement is really just a moment riding on the back of one rookie with a target on her chest. Let's start with the second best example, because it sets the stage. The magic formula that network executives drooled over was simple: Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever. Two of the most recognizable names, 5 games in one season. You didn't need a marketing degree to see the appeal. The first meeting between the two, a massive hit. 2.7 million average viewers on ABC, peaking at 3.1 million. That's a blockbuster by WNBA standards, up 115% from last year's ABC average. Everything clicked: Clark's foul trouble, her triple-double, the Fever crushing the Sky, even a post-game investigation controversy. It had all the drama, the perfect storm. And for one shining weekend, the WNBA looked like it had finally cracked the code. But then came the second meeting. Still strong, still a success, but down from the high. Primetime slot, CBS, 1.92 million viewers. Now don't get me wrong, that's still one of the most watched regular season games since 2001. That's still huge, but the dip was noticeable. It was the first sign that maybe the magic wasn't unlimited. Still, if you were a league executive, you could shrug it off. Numbers like that don't come around every year. You take the win, you bank it, and you pray the third meeting keeps the energy going, except it didn't. The third clash hit ABC again, and this time the audience dropped to 1.5 million. That's not just a decline, that's a trend. From 2.7 million to 1.9 to 1.5 in 3 meetings. Over 1 million people walked away in less than 2 months. And if you thought that was bad, wait until the fourth. Same matchup, same hype, but this time Clark wasn't on the court. Groin injury. And suddenly the WNBA's golden ticket game didn't even crack 1.4 million. Try 1.3 million. That means over 500,000 viewers looked at the schedule, saw Clark's name missing, and decided they had better things to do on a Saturday night. In 3 months, the so-called marquee matchup had hemorrhaged 1.4 million viewers. That's not a dip. That's a nosedive. Networks hate nosedives. Advertisers hate nosedives. And I promise you, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert hates nosedives. Now, here's the best example of the problem, the one that makes every network executive squirm in their leather chair. Take Clark out, not just from the Fever, but from the league as a whole, and the numbers across the board shrivel. A Connecticut Sun game pulled 180,000. The Dream versus the Mercury? 160,000. If you believe the hype about historic growth, those NBA TV numbers should be in the 300K range, minimum. Instead, they're struggling to hit 200K. And that tells you everything you need to know. Caitlin Clark isn't just a star. She's a stimulus package. When she plays, numbers spike. When she doesn't, they crater. That's not league-wide momentum. That's dependence on one player. Now, let's zoom out and apply the value loop, because context matters. This isn't the first time a sport has hitched itself to a single superstar. The NBA in the 80s and 90s leaned on Magic, Bird, and Jordan. But here's the difference. When Jordan sat, you still had Barkley, Ewing, Olajuwon, Drexler. The league promoted depth, not just one name. The WNBA, by contrast, has leaned so hard on Clark that their backup plan is basically hope she heals quickly. And that's a dangerous business model. Because the application here is obvious. Every week she's out, casual fans form new habits. They turn on baseball. They binge Netflix. They watch literally anything else. And once you break the habit of tuning in, good luck rebuilding it. The framing, then, is catastrophic for the WNBA's long-term growth narrative. A league that claims momentum cannot also be a league that flatlines every time one player misses time. That contradiction will not fly with networks writing 8-figure checks. Here's where things get even darker. It's not just about the injury. It's about how the league let it happen. Caitlin Clark has been targeted from the jump. Extra, contact, physical defense, landing space violations ignored, arm grabs ignored, hacks at the rim, play on. She takes harder hits than some NFL wide receivers and gets fewer whistles than a telemarketer in airplane mode. Ask yourself, if Clark had the same whistle as Paige Buchers in college, would she even be injured right now? Probably not. The Fever might be a top 3 seed, and this entire ratings death spiral wouldn't even exist. But instead, the league's officiating left its biggest draw vulnerable, and now everyone is paying the price. And if you think this is just about Clark's team, think again. When she's gone, the Fever aren't just less marketable, they're less competitive. Their offense collapses. Spacing dies. Defenses pack the paint and smother what's left. Casual fans aren't tuning in for Kelsey Mitchell ISO plays or Lexi Hull spot-ups. They came for Clark pulling up from 28 feet. Without her, it's not just bad basketball, it's irrelevant basketball. And that's the kiss of death in television. So where does the league go from here? Short term, they've been running a desperate PR playbook, teasing Clark as a game-time decision, dangling the possibility of her return like a carrot in front of starving rabbits. Except then coach Stephanie White admits she hasn't even practiced. That's not just sloppy, that's insulting. Fans eventually catch on. They realize the game-time decision label is a gimmick and nothing kills trust faster than feeling conned. Once fans stop believing you, they stop showing up. And once networks stop believing you, they stop paying up. Here's the rehook, because this is the part people don't want to admit. The playoffs are coming. If Clark's return doesn't immediately spike viewership back to May levels, then the entire growth storyline collapses. You can't say just wait anymore. You can't say more time. No, her comeback is supposed to be the jackpot. If it isn't, then the momentum was a mirage all along. That's the ultimate test looming on the horizon, and the WNBA knows it. Now let's bring it home. Expectations versus reality. The expectation was that Caitlin Clark would lift the WNBA into a new era of relevance, that her stardom would translate into permanent growth for everyone. The reality is that her absence has exposed just how fragile the entire structure really is. A league propped up by one player isn't a league with momentum, it's a league with a dependency problem. And unless they fix that dependency, protect their stars, and actually promote the depth of talent they have, this historic season will be remembered less as the beginning of a new chapter and more as the year the bubble started to burst. Because, let's be honest, if a high school boys state championship can outdraw your regular season games without Clark, then you don't have a growth story. You have a warning sign. And the question now isn't just whether the WNBA can survive another few weeks without its brightest star. It's whether they can survive the long-term erosion of fan trust, network patience, and advertiser interest. That's the real cliff they're staring at. And unless someone steps in to build a stronger foundation, they'll be tumbling off that cliff before they even realize the ground is gone beneath them. So I'll leave it to you. Is this just a temporary stumble, or is it the start of a collapse? Drop your take, hit that like button if you're still with me, and subscribe so we can keep digging into stories like this. Because one thing's for sure, the numbers aren't lying, and the ride from here is only getting bumpier.